Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do a step-by-step tutorial on how to paint a contrast painting. The contrast is going to be between the different shades of grey and red. The painting is pretty simple to do and can do wonders if you plan to decorate your living room walls with it. So we'll get started, and do check the description below for a full list of items that we used in the painting along with the links on where you can purchase them. So for this painting, first we need to paint the background. For this, I'm going to use titanium white and Mars black. I'll use both these colors to make horizontal strokes and make the background grey. So I'll dip my 1-inch flat brush in water and then I'll take the excess water out. The brush should be wet but not so much that the paint starts dripping on the canvas. Now I'll take some amount of white and some amount of black in my brush. Notice that the black is very less compared to white. Now start making horizontal strokes and automatically the two colors will blend in. Whenever I feel that the black color is too much and I want to lighten it, I'll just pick up white and start putting it on top of the black color. So here I do feel that the black is too dark and I'm picking up some white and putting it on top so that it becomes a lighter shade of grey. So now for the whole background, I'm going to keep picking up white and a teeny tiny amount of black and keep doing horizontal strokes to paint the whole background grey. I'm going to put this on time lapse so that you can see the process quickly. I leave the bottommost part of the canvas where the garden would come. Now this is the part of the sky where the moon would come, which needs to be brighter than the other areas. So I'll just pick up white and do horizontal strokes limited to this area. I'm going to take a lot of white in my brush and start painting it into this area of the sky. Again with the same horizontal strokes. Now we'll let the painting dry for 15 minutes and then come back. Now that the background is dry, it's time to make the moon. For the moon, I'm going to take my Filbert brush and I'm going to dip it in my white paint. I'm going to take a lot of white over here and start painting in the moon by making a circle. I'm making the outline of the circle first and then filling it in with the white paint. For this you have to be careful that you're putting in a lot of white so that the grey from behind does not peek through. So just be careful that you put in a lot of layers of white here. So now we have to start making the garden. For the garden, I'm going to use a chalk and trace on the canvas on where I want the garden and the tree to be. So this is where my garden would be and I'll start tracing it with my chalk. Now let's see where the tree would be. I have to make the trunk first and the two sides of the trunk would be somewhere around here. Now because the moon is here, there will be a shadow cast behind the trunk, which will be a slanting shadow. So let's start making the shadow. It will just be a slanting line, two parallel lines, and then there will be a darker shadow which will continue into the meadow. And let's start making the bushes. There will be bushes on the edges of the garden which we are tracing with the chalk. This needs to be painted in different shades of grey, and we'll learn how to make those different shades. So first we'll take titanium white on our palette paper, lots of white, and some amount of black. Now we'll make 3 different shades of grey using this. I'm going to take my palette knife, which is used for mixing colors, and let's start making the first shade. I'm going to take a lot of white and a very tiny amount of black. And now I'm going to start mixing it. Now I'm going to wipe off my palette knife on a paper towel. For shade 2, again take a lot of amount of white and take the tiniest amount of black, which is a bit more than the one that you took for the first shade, and start mixing. Again wipe off the palette knife on the paper towel. Now for the third shade, again I'm going to take white and a lot of black, and I'll mix it to a very dark shade of grey. So these are the 3 shades. I'm going to refer them as shade 1, shade 2 and shade 3 in the painting. Now I'll take my Filbert brush and dip it in shade 1. And I'm going to paint the garden with this. I'm going to take care that the trunk and the shadow of the trunk does not have this color. I'll paint above the chalk line and make sure that this whole area is painted in this light grey. Now I'll make the tree trunk using Mars black and again dip my Filbert brush in Mars black. Now that the 2 sides are made, I'll just start filling it in with black. Now it's time to make the bushes. For the bushes, I'll use a fan brush, and we'll learn a simple technique on how to make the bushes using a fan brush. I'm going to dip my brush in shade 3. I'm touching the brush very lightly on the canvas and doing alternate horizontal and vertical strokes with it. The vertical strokes are also in different directions, which gives the illusion of a bush, which is very untidy. See, I'm not pressing the brush at all on the canvas, but just dusting it with the top of the bristles on it. Let's similarly do the other side. Now we'll start shading the garden. For shading this area, we need to take into consideration the direction of the moon. Because the moon is here, that's why it's going to throw moonlight on this area, which is going to reflect here and here. Garden will thus go from a lighter shade to a darker one. This area behind the tree will be in the darkest shade of grey because the shadow of the tree will come here. So let's start by making the reflections first, and I'm going to dip my brush in white paint, and notice I'm just taking the paint on the edge of the brush. So now I'm going to place my brush in a way that the white edge paint actually comes towards the edge of the garden as well. The edge of the garden, that is the junction between the garden and the bushes, would be the brightest because it will reflect the most moonlight. I'm going to keep painting the complete edge in white. Now the second layer of white, which is a bit behind the first one, would actually give the illusion of grass behind the edge reflecting the moonlight. So it will actually seem like as if the garden ground is not very flat but rugged. Now I'm going to take shade 2 on my Filbert brush. Again, take the paint on the edge and start painting below the white paint. This area is being painted in a darker shade because it is in more shadow. Now to paint the shadow behind the tree, I'm going to use shade 3 and start painting in where we had actually traced with the chalk the shadow to be. Now I'll also put some black at the edge of the trunk. Now it's time to start painting in the tree branches. I'm going to use my Filbert brush and dip it in Mars black paint and make the first branch. It's not a straight line. It is a line with a lot of twists in the middle because branches are like that. I've made my first branch and now I'm on my way to make the second one. The trees can be of any shape. No tree is correct. You can just take any shape of the branches the way you want. You need to take care that the branches should be the thickest at the bottom and thinnest at the ends. I will now be adding highlights to the tree, again by using my Filbert brush and shade 1. I'll actually use a mix of shade 1 and 2 and also white to make these highlights. The highlights will continue at the edge of each of the branches as well. I'll also quickly add smaller branches to these trees. Now this is the part where we'll start adding in the contrast to the painting. I'm going to dip my Filbert brush in alizarin crimson and we'll start making the leaves. I'm going to go in a twisted motion with my brush. Look, I'm twisting my brush throughout and then getting my brush vertically down. I can go to the length that I like.
I'm going to make another twisty leaf trail. I'm twisting my brush every time and coming down to the length that I like. Don't try to make the two leaves at equal gaps and don't follow a pattern. You can just make them as close or as far apart, but make sure that you don't follow a pattern. I'm going to make the fourth one now. These can be in dark or lighter colors. It's completely up to you how you want to make them. I'm going to fill the complete top edge of the canvas with these leaf trails. I'm now going to make the cherry blossoms on each of these leaf trails using my round brush. My round brush in Naphthol Crimson. I'm going to start from the bottommost part and start making very tiny dots here. And then as I go up, I'm going to put in dots at a more wider place. I'm not worried about where my dots are, what pattern they are following. I'm just making random dots around the leaf trail. I'm also making sure that the dots are not coming in the same shape. So I'm twisting my brush now and then and just making the dots. I'm using very less pressure on the brush so that only the top edge actually touches the canvas here. I'm going to paint the whole leaf like this. Similarly, I'll make the second leaf. I'll start from the bottom and go up. I'm not worried about how close my brush stroke is to the first leaf, and I'm just going to keep making dots like this. Because this leaf is crossing the moon, we'll have to make sure that the dots that are made are very thin. So I'm only going to make a single line of dots over here so that the moonlight can be seen passing through. When the moonlight is crossed, I'll again spread out the dots. As you can see, I'll fill up the whole tree like this, and all the tree trails will be filled up with dots. I'm not worried about where they are overlapping, but it's only going to add to the beauty of the tree. And this way we've completed painting this beautiful tree.
I hope you like this painting and can do it yourself. For more tutorials, do subscribe to my channel so that you can get continuous updates on whenever I upload a tutorial. Don't forget to visit my page, Facebook page, Paint with Isha, to put in your version of this painting. So see you soon. Bye bye.